So in this segment, we're going to be discussing the Tories called out over failures to build houses, and this is indicative of, the Tories being in charge for so long and offering so much in terms of promising in the last manifesto, where ultimately they fail. They failed on their immigration target since 2010, and they're finally being pulled up on it properly.
You say that you're going to build 100,000 more houses than Labour. Just remind us what you promised in the last manifesto and whether or not you matched what you said you would do.
Well, I know that we've built a million houses, and we're going to say that we're going to...
Well, they didn't build a million houses. Construction companies built a million houses. It's not the government that did this.
Build 1.6 million houses in this period ahead of us, and we've described how we'll do that by making it easier to build on brownfield land, easy to build in towns, by removing some of the legacy EU laws.
I understand that.
Which are making it harder.
That's to do with, I think certain areas that just aren't safe to build on. So those are the EU rules they got rid of, which isn't very bright. I mean, they should just do compulsory purchase orders where if the land's disused or a building's dilapidated, the government or the council can buy it at a cut rate and do something with the land.
But did you match your manifesto that you promised in the last manifesto for the 2019 election? When you said you were going to build 300,000 new homes a year, did you?
Forgive me, I don't recall the specific number, but let's say it's 300,000.
I'll help.
That's crazy, this is literally the manifesto they ran on. He should be up to date on this, but the reason why you plead ignorance in this situation is so you can avoid the question.
Let me help you. Let me help you. 2019-20, 248,000, fell to 217,000 in 2021. We could talk about the pandemic there, of course. The latest figures just under 235,000 houses a year, as opposed to the 300,000 that was promised even before the manifesto, even before the pandemic. You didn't build a number of houses that you said that you were going to. So why should we believe you this time?
So a couple of things here. First of all, I think it's about 1 million houses we built in total. You already pointed out the reason why we wouldn't be able to build them all, which would have been a 2-year period where it was very difficult to get a lot of...
They weren't in track in the non-COVID years. That's the point. They wouldn't even be on track this year.
Construction done during the pandemic. But those numbers you're reading out may not mean much to people, 200,000 plus homes. When I was housing minister, just after Labour were in power, they were only building 100,000 homes a year. House building was its lowest since 1924.
Yeah, I'm talking about you guys, not Labour.
Well, no, the point is, we're comfortably building twice that number of houses plus.
The point is that you don't keep your promise.
But, it's like she's saying here, this was your promise. You didn't fulfil your promise. And yeah, you've increased the amount, but it's nowhere near enough. And Labour have offered to, essentially change planning permission rules so that it's going to be even easier to build housing on greenfields, regardless of how you feel of that. The Tories are only promising reform around brownfield sites. So brownfield sites are areas that have had construction or some sort of building around them, whereas greenfield is kind of a new land that hasn't had anything really built onto it. And that's Labour's plan. So, as much as I don't want to see greenfields being destroyed, I'd rather see more brown sites being used. I think maybe reformation around greenfields is a good option, but I'd rather they put it in a way where if there are no brown sites available, they would use a greenfield site, if that makes sense.
Promises.
Well, hold on a minute.
The point is you don't keep your promises. So what the manifesto, what's the point if you don't keep your promise?
Okay, I don't think anyone seriously thinks you could have predicted coronavirus.
But again, in the non-COVID years, you didn't reach your target. Historically, when it comes to social housing, you haven't hit your target. Why should anyone believe you? That's the point, and this is something she should be a bit more aggressive on, I think.
And
I gave you the numbers before the pandemic.
Oh, fair.
Well, the numbers were building up, as you saw, and 1 million homes. By the way, historically...
Well, you said don't say 300,000 if it's not 300,000.
And 1 million homes over 14 years? That's not great, is it? Honestly. So you're talking less than 100,000 a year, I think. So it's just ridiculous that this man is trying to push this idea that it was just down to COVID that we didn't get the houses we need. And also, who is buying these houses? If it's asset management companies or just landlords, how does that benefit the public? What you need to do is create a system where it benefits first-time buyers way more. It makes it way easier for a first-time buyer to purchase a property and more difficult for asset management companies and foreign purchasers and landlords to buy properties. In other countries, they have foreign owners taxes where they have to pay 100% tax to own a property in that country. It's to stop those people just buying up houses. Because at the end of the day, like a dwelling, a place where you live, is a necessity. It shouldn't be a commodity just to be bought and sold, traded. It's a necessity for society to have sustainable housing. And we don't have that in this country. And that's one of the reasons why this country is falling apart for so many people. It doesn't matter how hard you work in most jobs where you can't afford to buy a house. Even if you save for years, you can't afford to get a deposit because the cost of living crisis is so high, especially if you're renting currently. How are you supposed to be able to save to buy a mortgage because the rent centre is so cracked right now, where it's renting is difficult now. Forget saving for a house. Renting a property is a nightmare because of buy-to-let landlords and the fact that they're not building sustainable housing. They're building houses that cost £250,000 effectively. Like, how are you supposed to afford that when you're a first-time buyer? Kind of in your mid or even late 20s. It's impossible. And so, these arguments, that it's not just about raw numbers, it's about who's building these houses, what kind of houses are being built, and how much do they cost. And Brexit has definitely played a factor in this. The Tories have as well. It just there needs to be a broader conversation on this subject, to be honest with you. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.